All right, everyone. Tommy Robinson over in, the happy land of England, the dystopian Orwellian nightmare that it is planning to appeal his jail sentence. Of course, too long didn't read version here. Tommy Robinson was recording outside of a grooming gang trial and then got, hauled in by the bobbies, and a judge put him in jail for 13 months for violating the conditions of his former suspended sentence for conducting journalism, basically. Seems like conducting journalism gets you in a lot of trouble over in the UK unless you're part of the establishment. I wonder why that could possibly be. When a government is telling you that certain opinions are too taboo to express to others, it becomes a problem. It's a symbol, it's a symptom that there's a larger problem within your society. When there are certain things you're simply not supposed to discuss, that's dystopian. It shouldn't be happening. When that does happen, it should be a warning bell to people that things have gone terribly wrong. The English people appear to be largely deep asleep about it. And I see a lot of English people are very happy right now because Sadiq Khan apparently plans to fly a big Trump baby balloon above or near Parliament during Trump's official state visit. It's like, and by the way, I don't have a problem with that. You have every right to protest the fact that he's coming there. I find it funny. It's a juvenile thing, and that balloon may very well end up getting blown out of the sky. It's definitely going to be a target, I would assume, considering the chatter you see online about it. But as far as Tommy Robinson goes, I think he should appeal his sentence. But it's not so clear that he can actually successfully do so. He probably will stay in jail for the entire 13 months. It's a sort of a way to try to silence legitimate, independent journalism, I think, in the UK. It goes beyond Tommy Robinson as an individual. You don't have to like his views. Like, he has got an acerbic view of the Islamic religion, and I know that's an unpopular view, especially within the UK. He was the founder of the English Defence League, although I think he left for ideological reasons, if I remember correctly. So you don't have to necessarily side with him on any ideological issue so much as, hey, he still should have the right to conduct journalism. I am sorry, but I don't think, from this side of the pond, here's the thing, when you're talking to someone from England, they're like, well, he violated the conditions of his suspended sentence. Yes, but it shouldn't have been considered a violation. A judge should not have the ability to tell someone that they can't engage in their job description. Namely, he considers himself to be and conducts a journalist and journalism. That's what he does. He goes out and reports on these things. He feels that the English media is not properly doing so, is biased and putting its head in the sand and acting on behalf of a government that doesn't want people to realize how bad things are there. By the way, I somewhat concur with that conclusion. When I look at sort of what happens in England, I'm like, why aren't more people enraged about the state of their society? I'm not sure exactly why. It doesn't make any sense. The same thing is true in, other parts of Western Europe, really. Certainly any of the EU states at large, the EU itself being problematic. The UK no longer has that problem quite so much, although the Brexit thing keeps dragging on and on, so I think that's going to be like a permanent thing. It's typical bureaucratic nightmare nonsense. It happens a lot here, too, with regards to trying to accomplish anything within government. 10,000 bureaus have to be consulted to make sure that it's within their rules and regulations. Tommy Robinson, though, shouldn't be in prison at all. That is, that the initial sentence for, reporting shouldn't have been made. The violation sort of thing with regards to him reporting on this grooming gang, that shouldn't have happened either. He wasn't even allowed to access a lawyer. He was just, it's very, very funny that people are sitting there when they say, well, it's okay for him to be in prison. They're like, well, he could have endangered the fairness of this trial. It could have been a problem. Okay, well, where's his fair trial? He didn't even get to talk to a lawyer until afterwards. Then he's basically silenced. It's like, yeah, here's a letter from Tommy Robinson. A week later, he gets moved to a different, more dangerous prison, apparently. It doesn't make any sense. It just doesn't make any sense that he would be in jail in the first place because the law itself shouldn't exist. The legalism itself is what I call into question, and it's unjust. He's just sitting there trying to report. He's sitting there with a fucking cell phone outside of the trial venue. You know what happens here in the U.S.? If you're doing that, nothing. Unless you are impeding other people's movement, you're being a nuisance, you're disrupting things. If you're being violent, if you're being disruptive, yeah, it's a problem. But if you're just standing there on the side of the street with your phone recording people that are walking into a court, That doesn't violate anyone's rights. You have the right to do that. It is a public space. You're standing on the sidewalk. You're on a piece of public property. It's like we had to get this federal court, I believe it was, involved. Or was it even the Supreme Court? I can't remember who made the decision. One of our upper courts had to get involved to reiterate, yes, indeed, you have the right to film police. If you're not, in the commission of any other crime, you're not distracting them, you're not attacking them, you're not getting in their way, you're just standing back. It's like there was a case, somebody was on their own property, they were in their front lawn. And the police were, I guess, arresting someone, and the person was filming from their porch, and the cop's like, you stop that, put it down. Attacks him, literally assaults the person. And I think that particular instance the police officer was let go of as justice was served. But it's like, yeah, it's self-explanatory, especially on your own property. That's just a no-brainer. But if you're on public property, you're not impugning upon anyone else or violating their rights to free movement, to be, safe and whatever, then yeah, you have the right to do that. It's like when Loomer there was in the halls of Congress recording Maxine Waters, and Maxine Waters was like, oh, I'm not talking to you. Yeah, she can walk away and Loomer can continue recording, and Maxine Waters technically assaulted her. But it's frivolous, and it's not going to actually get prosecuted because no serious judge is going to award you money based on the fact that someone hit you on the head with a piece of paper. That's ridiculous. It's more ridiculous than Maxine Waters, and that's going some. But I understand why the claim was made. It was to get attention to Maxine Waters being crazy. With Tommy Robinson, though, ideologically, you can oppose him all you want, but you should still support his right to report. Journalism isn't just for the crowd of people that are hired by million-dollar or billion-dollar corporations. The fact that you wear a suit and you get a 7-figure salary and you have capped teeth and you say everything that you read off a teleprompter, okay, well, yeah, that's technically being part of the media. I wouldn't call it journalism, per se. But certainly there are people that go out and they do interviews and stuff. They actually do journalism. But they're part of the corporate sort of establishment media. In the UK, usually the state co-opted or state-run media like BBC. If you do that anyway, but you don't have the journalism degree or the backing of CNN or the BBC or something, how is it not journalism? You're doing exactly the same thing. Look, the proof is in the action, not in the label. The label journalist as a job description means very, very little. You can technically be therefore a journalist, but you're not actually conducting journalism. You're reading a teleprompter. Some CIA agent is telling you what to say. Well, then you're not actually conducting any form of journalism. Be honest, you're just reporting on what you're being told to report on. Likewise, you cannot be a journalist but still do journalism. There's a difference between the two. Robinson, regardless of what you think about his personal character or his views, is still technically conducting that. He's going out and reporting on something currently happening. That's sort of the description of journalism. Bias aside, because of course he has his own personal biases. How is that different from the biases of all of these corporate orders? They have their own political views. It's quite clear. We've got, for instance, here in the U.S., we've got CNN and MSNBC openly coordinating with the Clinton campaign in the last election. They have a political view. And it's the organization, people representing the entire corporation are the ones expressing that view. So it trickles down to every journalist, every pundit, every talking head that they happen to have, every person, every consultant. Except those that they drag up on there to be a generic whack-a-mole so-called conservative, sort of like when Fox News invites the bobblehead liberal on. Like when they had Bill O'Reilly's show there, it's like any liberal that was actually sane would never get on there. Because Bill O'Reilly would rather talk over someone who's very meek and will just sit there and sort of nod. It's very funny. And then he gets fired for creepy phone calls with people apparently involving very, very strange, really, really out there fetishism, believe it or not. I wonder how many Bills fans actually know the backstory to this and are still they're hyper religious and they just don't know the weird shit that he's into. It's he's really funny. Tommy Robinson should not be in jail, though. You don't have to like a person's personal character. I hear this from the left. Well, yeah, but he's bigoted, or he's a Nazi, or he's extremist. Okay, think that if you want. Is he still a citizen of your country? Yes or no? It's self-explanatory. Look, you're allowing the government to randomly abuse someone based on the fact that you don't want to defend them because of their character. That's really, really dangerous. Really, really dangerous. It's been done before. It's usually the prelude to things like genocide or witch burnings. Oh, I don't dare to defend this person because, their views are wrong and therefore, I'll probably guilt by association. Look, they've been trying to do that anyway. They try to do that all the time. The biased corporate media tries to use guilt by association to silence people from protecting others who are being abused, based solely on the fact that that person has some weird belief. This person believes in aliens. They're a tinfoil hatter. If you defend them, therefore, you must be a conspiracy theorist too. You're a wacko. They say things like this all the time. They've been doing it for decades. It's like, unless you're callous to it, you probably are silenced. A lot of people, they're not brave enough to speak out against abuse because of propaganda like that. And that's about all. Peace out.